when it comes to sitcoms, I started on top, Mary Tyler Moore Show, and how I got in there was I had a manager called Gary Marshall. He's kind of a comedy icon. Passed away last year. He was my manager, my dearest friend, and my mentor. And I had a partner named Iris Rayner Dart who wrote Beaches, which I'm sure most of you have read and seen. And we wrote A Love American Style. That was our only script that we did. And then she took a break to have a baby, and I saw the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I said, I can do this show, Gary. He said, you've never written on your own. I said, I don't care. She's from Minneapolis. I'm from Milwaukee. She started at a small station. I started at a small station in California. I want, hey, there's a chair. Come on in. Here's Kirsten too. Okay, right there.
Yeah.
I said I can do that show, so he got me an appointment there. And Jim and Alan were looking for women writers. They had Treva Silverman, but they made an effort to go look for us. And I came in with my stories that any woman could have told. My first story was how I had to stand up for a wedding for someone I didn't like, and then I wore this hideous bridesmaid dress, which the costume designers on the show made this great Bo Peep dress that all was missing was the sheep, you know. So anything I said they thought was great because they hadn't heard it before. And by the end of that show, they had hired 25 women. And it's so amazing to me how iconic that show became and how important it was to women and also guys. Guys were in love with her, and women wanted to be her and got permission to live their lives, and it's an amazing credit. I said it was downhill for the next 20 years after that because they also took a lot of time with us. We would spend a whole day breaking down a story. Other shows you'd get 20 minutes and then go home and figure it out on your own. And in those days, we wrote our own scripts. We didn't do a writer's room where they all sit now. I call it spritzing, Jay. I don't call it writing. They throw the jokes against the wall and whatever wins. We wrote our own scripts. We turned them in. They gave us notes. And we were also allowed to come to the table read. We were allowed to come to the rehearsals. It was a very special show. After 20 years, I was divorced, and I moved to New York. And I think my life is kind of like, I say, a baby boomer's life on steroids. I got a divorce. I almost died a couple times from illnesses. I took care of my parents. All those things we do. And then I had to date at a certain age, and that was the hardest thing. So I had a dating column called The Search for Mr. Adequate. Because there's no perfect, there's no prince. After 35, especially after 50, you find a guy who's more than adequate, and then you make him into the one. I still haven't found him, so if you know of anybody, please have him call me. One of the themes in the book is reinvention. We live longer now, we kind of have to reinvent ourselves. So I took 1 year off. I was very fortunate that I could when I moved to New York in '90. And I decided I wanted to totally do something else, and what I wanted to do was be involved with Jewish organizations in Israel. So I got a job at the Anti-Defamation League. I started a speakers bureau for them. I did that for 2 years. Then I was the UN observer for the Simon Wiesenthal Center. That was the worst 7 years of my life, since it's not a very welcoming place to Israel. And now I'm very involved with something called the Friends of the Israel Defense Force, where we give scholarships to soldiers. And I have, with a friend that I met on one of our missions, 3 soldiers who are like my family. They're like my sons, and they've all graduated, and now they have children. So I have invented families, which is another thing I do. I am a baby whisperer. If I see a baby that responds to me, as Melanie knows, her baby at the time, Zane, who is now 14, fell in love with me, and I fell in love with him, and I make them my own. And we went to the movies yesterday. It'd probably be the last date we have, because he's a little grown up now. And this time he wanted to shake my hand. There was no hugging. Oh. But I have a baby now who is the love of my life that you'll read about, who I found in a very interesting way, who's now my real goddaughter. So that's another thing. I believe you look for love in the wrong and right places, and sometimes you find them. Up to the present, I do have my radio commentary on NPR. It's called Susan Says. And I do media and culture and things that piss me off, which is called Oh Come On. And those who know me well know the 2 things that piss me off the most are noise and Donald Trump. So that's what I concentrate on. Anyway, if you go to the website, which is www.hotpantsonhollywood, what else would it be? You can get a free chapter about a present I gave to myself on my 50th birthday, which is my last birthday. I am between 50 and death. I'm not sure if Auntie Mame said it or I made it up, and that's what it's going to be, and I don't care. And some of you know the truth and don't tell it. I am between 50 and death. And if you go onto the website, you can get that chapter, and it's kind of sexy. It was a guy that's played here as a rock and roll person, but I'm not naming names. Anyway, the theme also of the book is life ain't over yet.
Good.
So now, questions? I feel like this is like either a group therapy session or a cocktail party at my apartment. I don't know which. Any questions? Anything?
Do you have a favorite? I'm sorry. Do you have a favorite line or scene that you created? That okay.
I do, as a matter of fact. I have two. One show where Lou gets a divorce and Rhoda decorates his apartment. And he has one chair, like my ex-husband had this one old beat-up chair. That's all he cared about in the world, and that was the only thing he wanted. And when my husband left, he took that chair. And Lou Grant wanted that chair. And she decorated the entire place in modern and things. And he comes in with Mary, and Rhoda's standing there, and he says, "I love it. I love it." And then Rhoda leaves the room without catching her breath. He says, "I hate it. I hate it." And Ed won his first Emmy for that episode, and he mentioned my name on television, so that was really amazing. The other one was the Ted Baxter character, was stupid.
Right.
And so I wrote this speech where he's delivering this very complicated World War I thing, and he says some word that's very hard. He does it right, and Mary and Murray are standing there. They say, "Fabulous." And then he says, "And that happened during World War I." One many, and he goes on. So those are my two favorite lines. Yes?
Yeah, I just want to say that as a single mother with 3 small children and pretty scared, that the Mary Tyler Moore Show really meant a lot to me.
I think it's the ghost of Bill Cosby up there, isn't it? Bill, we're talking, we're busy. That's so important, honey. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. You know what's so interesting about, Jay knows, we went to this memorial a couple weeks ago. It meant something to people every generation.
Right.
And Mary was a part of everybody's life, and she wound up living in New York 2 doors away from me, so I got to see her a little bit towards the end. But we had no idea it was that iconic. We just kind of were doing it. It was fun. It came when feminism came. We were talking about our own lives. We're not really having a mission, like All in the Family had politics. We were just sort of talking about our lives. And thank you for saying that.
Yeah.